Welcome to NewsNation. 3 questions as food for thought for you, okay? Maybe one question and a couple of comments. I don't know, you tell me. Here's the first question. Does Elon Musk have a Fauci problem? Now, I'm not referring to his kind of empty hatred of Fauci or his problematic repeating of half-truths and outright poppycock about Tony Fauci. However, Musk tweeting, "My pronouns are prosecute Fauci," is a little bit of a sign of why he may now be in deep suck and suspected to be out soon. I'm asking if he has a Fauci problem in a different way. My context is that is he now in a similar situation to the once embattled scientist? This position, perilous, of, and also ill-fated ultimately, right, of being an unelected face of a major and controversial government operation. Fauci, of course, was the face of COVID, right, for 2 different administrations. Musk is the face of DOGE, of downsizing, right, of reducing government. Both are seen by critics as doing too much to too many in ways that may make the remedy worse than the malady they address. So does he have a Fauci issue? Now, here's the distinction. Musk's main credential seems to be that he is really rich, okay? But he has an obvious ignorance, despite being a genius in other ways, when it comes to how government and how politics work. He's clearly out of his depth. I'm not saying he can't find efficiencies and waste. I mean, who couldn't? Nobody's ever looked for these things and failed to find them, okay? But for all the Fauci bashing, Trump never even mentioned moving him out, as he is doing now with Musk. Now, you could argue that legally he couldn't move out Fauci, but first of all, a legal impediment has never stopped President Trump from trying something in public or personal life. Besides, he could have made his political appointees fire Fauci, and that would have been fine. So why didn't he? Because he saw in Fauci a skilled operator in a time of crisis. Musk's problem is, like we saw with Fauci, he's become the poster boy for problems with the administration's efforts. However, outside the MAGA folk, he has little love coming his way, as witnessed from the polls and public attacks of his ready, shoot, aim DOGE efforts and constant mistakes about how things work. And now the trouncing that he and his millions that he spent in Wisconsin took. Many are saying Musk may have actually added to the margin of defeat for the Republicans in Wisconsin. Hence, the Trump telltale that someone is on the way out. The old telling the inner circle story that you'll hear during a Trump administration. Whenever you hear that he's talking to his inner circle, someone's gonna die, okay? This is how Trump usually tests and foreshadows an exit. Now, does that mean that Musk is gonna leave, and soon? Now, another indication that he's got trouble is that Musk doesn't seem to have the same lock on the fringy pod people anymore. You know, the media minions that kind of echo everything MAGA. Have you noticed that his buddy Joe Rogan, who swallowed the idea that Social Security is a terrible drain on the deficit, even though legally it has nothing to do with our deficit, but now he's kind of admitting the obvious. Rogan's saying that, you know, some of the Trump administration's best moves, which would be on immigration, are still, some of them are hasty and hurtful, right? He's just supposed to get the wrong hombre. He was supposed to round up the bad hombres, but now, too often, he seems to be getting the wrong hombres. And instead of just finding bad hombres, he seems to just sell this idea that it's okay to send people who aren't really here for bad reason to bad places. Even Ann Coulter questioned Trump deporting a pro-Gaza Columbia campus protester, Mahmoud Khalil. So if you start to see these cracks of people who usually believe everything he puts out there, Musk was usually a galvanizer there. And if he can't keep the media minions in check, and he's a lightning rod for critics and controversy, how long until he gets the full Fauci and gets thanked and pushed out and then blamed for a lot on the back end? Point 2, the wisdom of Wisconsin. Did we see a sign of a potential midterm massacre? Despite all the mandate talk and some significant demographic shifts in Trump's favor, the truth about the last election is that the Democrats lost more than Trump did things to win. Trump is still wildly unpopular in most of the country and with most people. And notions that he's on an epic popularity run are about as legit as Newsmax's stock price being over $100, okay? The hype gave way in both cases and in epic fashion. Democrats can connect to the common cause, as we saw in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election last night. Now, I would argue that that is the lesson for them to look at, not Senator Cory Booker talking for a long time about things that may or may not happen. You know, I guess you can celebrate his achievement of talking that long. I just don't see the there for people. The whole headline is the whole story. Booker talked a long time. Wisconsin has a real narrative that when you presented a population with a question, a proposition, whom do you trust to respect the law? The Trumpy candidate was trounced. In the first statewide election since Trump won and Musk's moves with Doge, the Democratic-backed candidate for the Supreme Court in Wisconsin won the election by double digits. Musk made his money and his cheesehead a centerpiece of the proposition, and the voters kicked him to the curb. Point 3, Liberation Day may wind up meaning that it was the day that MAGA folk were liberated from the fealty, where they have to tell everything that Trump wants them to tell, and instead can talk about the truth, especially when it comes to dicey moves like these tariffs, which a lot of economists are calling reckless and pointless. Trump just announced a universal 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. goes into effect Saturday. But for other countries, he says, you know, if they're being unfair to the U.S., he will be imposing even higher tariffs using a formula, and they go into effect next week. Take a listen.
For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. 39%. We're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune.
Hey, he's laughing now, but I don't know who the joke's going to wind up being on. Now, Trump's pitch is that he's just doing to them what they're doing to us, reciprocal tariffs. But the data doesn't appear to support that. And he is not being clear about how they came up with the numbers either, okay? Like for Europe, he says they have a 40% tariff on our goods. In reality, the tariffs are just 5.2%. He says Japan has a 46% tariff on us. The WTO, the World Trade Organization, says they only have a 4.3% tariff on most products. Trump says China has a 67% tariff on U.S. goods. The Peterson Institute, very conservative, found China tariffs 20% of what our tariffs are. So we're also now finding out that Trump isn't putting a 34% tariff on Chinese products like his chart said, but actually a 54% tariff on Chinese goods. And you know who's going to feel the pain of that difference, right? Smartphones, China. Toys, China. Batteries, China. Video game consoles, China. They could all become 50% more expensive. And we haven't even heard about what's going to happen with Mexico and Canada yet. They're not listed on Trump's chart that he was holding up. I thought they started all of this. You see, the lack of clarity is spooking the markets. The futures are already down over 1,000 points after Trump's announcement, and that's making some MAGA folk kind of try to have one foot in and one foot out right now. Uncertainty equals death in the markets. And many, even in MAGA land, don't get why Trump is getting the numbers so wrong or why he believes these moves make anything better, let alone great again. So this is something to look at. What is Liberation Day going to wind up being? Now, you can say, let's wait and see. But you also have to focus the criticism on the planning. You know the old expression, failing to plan is planning to fail? What is the plan here? And how does it pay off for the rest of us? Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.